March Madness expansion? 72 or 76 teams? NCAA Tournament future. March Madness expansion decision looms. Fall verdict expected as 2026 implementation faces growing hurdles. The potential expansion of the NCAA tournament remains a hot topic, but the likelihood of seeing changes implemented for the upcoming season is rapidly diminishing. During a Thursday address at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., the NCAA President Charlie Baker revealed that a decision on expanding the tournament field to either 72 or 76 teams could arrive sometime this fall, a notable shift from the previously established informal August deadline that aims to implement a larger bracket format for the 2026 postseason. Earlier this month, both the Division I men's and women's basketball committees convened specifically to evaluate expansion possibilities. Yet, they concluded their meetings without reaching any definitive resolution. This extended timeline for making a final decision creates significant logistical challenges that make reshaping the tournament structure by next March increasingly improbable, according to Baker. The tournament must commence after all conference championships have concluded, Baker explained. Currently, Selection Sunday happens approximately 2 hours following the final tournament game and must be completed by the Tuesday preceding the Masters. There's very limited flexibility within that time frame. For any expansion scenario, we'll need to determine not only how to incorporate additional games, but also how to make the logistics function effectively. The committee's inability to reach a consensus this month represents a small victory for the broader college basketball community, which has largely expressed opposition to expanding the field. However, this delay might merely postpone what many see as inevitable changes. Various NCAA officials and conference administrators have consistently advocated for the benefits of including more teams in the postseason tournament. But here's where it gets controversial. Expansion discussions have circulated for years, but the current proposal marks the closest the NCAA has come to enlarging the men's bracket since its last expansion in 2011, which introduced the first 4 play-in games. For comparison, the women's tournament only recently increased to 68 teams in 2022. Another significant obstacle facing expansion plans involves financial implications for qualifying institutions. As more teams enter the tournament, conference payouts and per-school financial distributions could potentially decrease, with more programs requiring shares of the same revenue pool. Expansion, even at a modest level, presents complex challenges, more complex than has generally been acknowledged in reporting. NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball, Dan Gavitt, told CBS Sports back in February. It's expensive because we must account for additional team travel expenses, daily allowances, game operations costs, and critically, the basketball performance funds, those units earned throughout both the men's and women's basketball championships. The structural format of an expanded bracket remains undetermined. A logical approach might involve restructuring the first 4 to accommodate additional teams prior to the first round, though the specific implementation would likely depend on whether the field ultimately grows to 72 or 76 teams. And this is the part most people miss. While expansion seems inevitable to many insiders, the financial redistribution model could ultimately determine not just if expansion happens, but how dramatically the tournament changes. The NCAA must balance growing the game's exposure with maintaining the financial incentives that make March Madness so valuable to participating schools and conferences. What's your take? Would expanding the NCAA tournament enhance or dilute the magic of March Madness? Do you believe more teams deserve a shot at the championship, or should tradition prevail? Share your thoughts in the comments about whether this potential expansion represents progress or unnecessary change to college basketball's premier event. NCAA tournament expansion. Will it happen in 2026? Charlie Baker update. In a bold statement that has the potential to reshape college basketball, NCAA President Charlie Baker announced on Thursday that a decision regarding the expansion of the NCAA tournament is anticipated to be made sometime this fall. This timeline suggests that any changes are unlikely to affect the upcoming men's and women's tournaments in 2026. Speaking at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., Baker highlighted that the primary obstacle to expanding the tournament, especially with such a tight deadline of less than 8 months, is the logistical challenges involved. He explained the tournament has to start after the conference championships are over, Currently, Selection Sunday occurs just 2 hours after the final tournament game concludes, and it must wrap up by the Tuesday before the Masters. There's not much flexibility in that schedule. If we decide to expand, we will need to devise a way to incorporate it and ensure it operates smoothly. Previously, Baker had communicated to Yahoo Sports, the first outlet to report on the decreasing likelihood of an expanded NCAA tournament for the upcoming season, that a decision would need to be finalized by August to be implemented for the 2026 tournaments. That decision would need to be finalized August to 2026. In that first deadline, Baker made a compelling argument in favor expansion, a sentiment echoed by conference leaders since SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey first raised the issue. Every year, there's every strong teams that miss out on the tournament for various reasons. One significant factor is the existence of 32 automatic qualifiers. With 32 conferences in Division I, each conference champion secures a spot in the tournament. While I wholeheartedly support this system and believe it should remain unchanged, it leaves only 36 slots available for all other teams. Consequently, many teams that rank among the top 50 or 60 in the nation are left out. Baker specifically mentioned the 2024 St. John's and Indiana State teams as examples of deserving candidates for at-large bids, particularly noting St. John's narrow defeat to UConn in that year's Big East tournament. I reject the notion that some of the teams currently excluded from the tournament aren't good enough, Baker asserted. They are indeed worthy, and it's frustrating to see them left out. Earlier this month, the committees for men's and women's Division I basketball convened separately to deliberate on the topic expansion, but no definitive decisions were reached during those discussions. The NCAA's Division I board is scheduled to reconvene in August. In a statement following the meetings, NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball Dan Gavitt remarked, "We thoroughly discussed the possibility of expanding the field for each championship, but no decision or recommendation was made. The potential outcomes still include maintaining the current 60 team format or expanding to either 72 or 76 teams ahead of the 2026 or 2027 championships. This topic is sure to ignite debate among fans and analysts alike. What are your thoughts on the potential expansion of the NCAA tournament? Do you believe it would enhance the competition or dilute the quality of the field? Share your opinions in the comments below."